Most revenge stories are loud. They involve shouting matches, thrown drinks, or public freakouts. But this story involves a birthday song. A song so loud, so weaponized, and so perfectly timed that it didn't just ruin a dinner, it ended a career. We've all dealt with rude customers, the Karens, the stiffers, the people who snap their fingers. We tolerate them because the customer is always right? Wrong. In the service industry, there is a hidden caste system, a code, and the only thing we hate more than a bad customer is a traitor. Someone who knows the struggle, who knows the pain of being in the weeds, and chooses to inflict it on their own kind anyway. On a Tuesday night in 2015, one woman decided to break that code. She thought her status gave her immunity. She thought she was the predator in a tank of prey. But she forgot one crucial rule of the jungle. Never pick a fight with the nursing student who has access to the entire kitchen staff and a manager with the phone. To understand why this retaliation went nuclear, you have to understand the battlefield. This wasn't a TGI Fridays. This was a word-of-mouth establishment. The owners didn't believe in marketing. They believed that if the food was good and the service was perfect, the people would come. And they did. This place ran on honor. It ran on pride. I was a veteran there. Well, as much of a veteran as you can be while juggling anatomy textbooks and clinical rotations. I was in nursing school, which meant two things. One, I was exhausted. And two, I was rapidly losing my capacity to tolerate nonsense. If you can handle bodily fluids at 7 a.m., a rude customer at 7 p.m. doesn't scare you. It just annoys you. But this story isn't about me. It's about him. Let's call him the rookie. But he wasn't a kid. He was older, maybe late 40s, early 50s. He had lived a life before this, and for whatever reason, he found himself back at the bottom of the food chain carrying plates for strangers. He was lovable. You know the kind. A little awkward, a little shy, terrified of making a mistake. He treated every table like a bomb defusal operation. I had spent weeks training him, or rather, supporting him. When he got into the weeds, that panic state where you have too many tables and not enough time, I was the one who jumped in. I'd refill his drinks, run his food, talk him off the ledge. On the night of the incident, he finally had his own section. No training wheels. He was flying solo. I was right next door, keeping one eye on my tables and one eye on his, ready to swoop in like a caffeine-fueled guardian angel if things went south. And things were about to go very, very south, because seated in his section was a six-top, 20-somethings, the kind of table that scans the room not looking for food, but looking for weakness. It started with this secret menu nonsense. You know the drill. I want the chicken wrap, but not the one on the menu, the one they make at the other location. The rookie came to me, eyes wide, panic rising. He says she has the ingredients. She says the other store does it all the time. Now, I could have told him to stand his ground. I could have told him to tell her no. But this was his first night solo. His confidence was as fragile as a sugar glass bottle. Therefore, I told him to ask the kitchen. The cooks, bless their hearts, made the wrap. Crisis averted? No. Crisis initiated. The leader, let's call her the traitor, smelled blood. Every time he returned to the table, she had a new demand. Not all at once, which would be efficient. No, she strung them out, one by one. It was death by 1,000 cuts. She wasn't dining, she was hunting. I checked on him in the back. He looked like he was about to quit on the spot. He was vibrating with anxiety. "I'm trying," he whispered. "I'm doing everything she asks." I told him to breathe. I told him I'd handle his other tables so he could focus on the Queen of Sheba. I was effectively his emotional support animal. They stayed past closing. Of course they did. They were the last table in the restaurant, holding the entire staff hostage. That's when the rookie came to me with the check. He was confused. She wants the employee discount, and she wants to use multiple discounts for everyone at the table. I stopped. Employee? I asked. And that's when he dropped the bomb. She hadn't just been rude. She had spent the entire meal berating him. She told him he was incompetent. She told him he was the worst waiter she had ever seen. And how does she know? Because she was a trainer at our sister location. This wasn't a civilian being mean. This was a lieutenant shooting a private. She knew exactly how hard it was to work a first shift. She knew exactly how terrifying it was to be in the weeds. And she chose to crush him anyway. To make herself look big in front of her friends, she had to make him look small. And now she wanted free cake. She claimed it was a multiple birthday situation. She wanted the discount she didn't deserve and the song she definitely didn't earn. She wanted a show. Fine, we were going to give her a show. The air in the back of the house wasn't just hot from the kitchen, it was thick with humiliation. When the rookie showed me the check and the smug note about stacking employee discounts and the multiple birthdays, the mask finally slipped. He almost collapsed against the prep counter. He wasn't just tired, he was broken. This was beyond the usual first night panic. This was professional fratricide. He confessed that the traitor had been doing this for the entire 2 hours, systematically dismantling his confidence, sentence by sentence. She didn't just critique him, she mocked his age. She questioned his competence, and she reminded him over and over that she was a trainer. But the worst offense wasn't the cruelty. It was the hypocrisy of claiming status to abuse it. She was supposed to uphold the standards of service, but she was actually using the industry's own rules as a cudgel against an overwhelmed coworker. To say I was livid doesn't capture it. Livid is a customer complaining about a hair in their soup. This was lava. It was the quiet rage you feel when someone targets the weak and defenseless. He was just trying to earn a living, but this entitled parasite saw him as a toy to be tortured. Therefore, any thought of customer service evaporated. This was no longer about a tip or a Yelp review. This was about justice. She was demanding 2 things that broke our internal laws: stacked discounts, which every employee knows is never allowed, and free cakes, demanding we sing immediately. She was celebrating her victory of emotional torture with free goods. She was so blinded by her own hubris that she thought the rules, both professional and legal, didn't apply to her. She believed her arrogance was a superpower. I looked at the rookie, who was resigned to defeat, and told him one thing: prep the cakes. Do not, under any circumstances, go out there. But he looked confused. Therefore, I clarified. We are getting the manager. Now, this is the part of the story that secretly made this possible. Our managers were the exception to the rule. They weren't just pencil pushers. They had our backs. They understood the integrity of the job. I walked straight to the front-end boss, who was closing out the registers, and gave him the most condensed, venomous summary of the past 2 hours. I gave him the full script: trainer status, intentional psychological abuse, and the demand for illegal stacked discounts. I reminded the manager, she is a walking, talking liability to our reputation. She is a traitor to our brand. But he didn't need convincing. His quiet rage, a force almost never seen, ignited. This was not a customer issue. This was a management crisis, and he was an absolute professional. I asked permission for what I actually wanted to do: the Decibel Death Sentence. He smiled, a small, terrifying smile that promised retribution. He gave me permission, took the specific employee numbers she had provided for the discounts, and told me he had a boss-to-boss phone call to make. The plan had two parts: the public theatrical action, the show, and the private professional execution. Layer 1, the surface action, the show. I ran through the restaurant gathering every available body, the closing crew, the back line, even the dishwasher. I gave them the fastest, most urgent explanation. She broke him. She is one of ours. We are going to sing happy birthday, but we aren't singing to her. The joy was immediate. This was tribal justice. We needed overwhelming force. I needed everyone's voice amplified. She was in the corner booth, which meant the sound was going to bounce. It was a natural amphitheater of pain. But our standard song was too short. Therefore, the directive was simple. Scream it, elongate it, hold the notes until your lungs burn. We were preparing a sonic weapon. Layer 2, the methodology, the timing. This was the procedural brilliance. The traitor had to feel safe. She had to believe she had won. Her hubris was the necessary ingredient. She saw the cakes, she saw the crowd of staff gathering, and she thought this was her reward for being demanding. This was the moment of false defeat, where she felt in control and we secretly held the fuse. I told the staff to wait until I got the nod. The nod was contingent on the manager finishing his call. He wasn't just calling her local manager, he was calling the general manager, the one step below owner of her entire company. He wasn't having a conversation. He was delivering a verdict. Layer 3, the hidden genius, the legal maneuver. The traitor knew she couldn't stack discounts. She was a trainer. She was actually attempting internal theft. But the manager used the employee numbers she provided. Therefore, she gave him the exact evidence needed to confirm her identity and her attempted fraud, streamlining the execution process. This wasn't about a bad attitude. This was a formal termination based on a documented illegal act. Her arrogance signed her own pink slip. The manager exited the office. He gave me the nod. The stage was set. Her smug smile was plastered across her face. She had everything she wanted: free food, validation, and a captive audience. She never saw the wave coming. The air in the restaurant was thick. The traitor, unaware of the two-pronged execution unfolding around her, wore the smirk of absolute victory. She had her free cakes. She had her audience. She thought this whole staff was now her performance troupe. We lined up, all of us: host, server, manager, line cook, and yes, even the dishwasher, still wearing his apron. There were at least a dozen of us standing over her table of 6. I gave the rookie a look. He had done his job. Now it was our time to do ours. I gave the cue. We took a collective deep breath, and then we opened our mouths. We didn't sing. We screamed. We didn't harmonize. We delivered a wall of sound. Because the table was situated in the corner, the sound had nowhere to go but to bounce back. Therefore, every decibel we produced was doubled, hitting them like an acoustic hammer. This wasn't a celebratory song. It was a sonic weapon calibrated for a contained space. The table's smiles dropped faster than the stock market in 2008. They jumped, they flinched, hands shot up to cover their ears, but it was useless. We held the notes, the happy birthday to you, for excruciating, agonizing seconds. I saw the pure, unadulterated pain on the traitor's face. It was the moment the suffering to satisfaction ratio finally tipped. She never anticipated the resistance. She actually thought she could mistreat us and walk away with applause. The song, which felt like an hour but was almost 60 seconds of pure auditory onslaught, finally ended. The sudden silence was deafening. The only sound was the deep, ragged breathing of the dozen people who had just exhausted their lungs in the name of industrial justice. The traitor was shell-shocked. Her friends were recovering, but the moment she opened her mouth to complain about the noise, therefore, the manager stepped in, executing the kill shot. He walked calmly to the table, phone in hand. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice flat. "There is a phone call for you. From your general manager." She took the phone, and in the quiet lobby, her excuses began. She tried to justify the discounts. She tried to cry. She tried to plead ignorance, claiming she didn't actually know she couldn't stack the numbers. But the manager already provided the documentation, the employee numbers she willingly surrendered for the never permitted discount. Therefore, her entire defense collapsed instantly. The GM already knew about her abuse of the rookie, and they knew about the attempted theft. She had weaponized her position and the rules of the house. The house had responded with a termination. She was done. She gathered her things in silence, her friends avoiding eye contact. We watched her walk out the door, and we never saw her again. The rookie stayed. He finished his shift with a calm competence he hadn't shown all night. He found his legs. Justice wasn't just served, it was screamed. And that is where our story ends. A 2-hour reign of terror undone by a 60-second cacophony of retribution. We can't be sure what happened to her. Maybe she convinced someone to hire her back. Maybe she learned her lesson. But what we know for certain is that in that moment, in that restaurant, the scales of justice were balanced by a sound engineer and a very angry manager.